Public speaking is one of those tools that you use everywhere, whether it's at your job or whether it's in your leadership class, like you mentioned, or even for school and work. Public speaking in general is a great skill to have, and it's so nice to see all these kids out here excited and passionate and ready to share their voice.
Water impacts us all. It's part of our daily routines, and it is essential for all living things. The issue is that water is often taken for granted. This is part of the reason I have decided to talk about this topic today. It concerns both poverty-stricken communities and our treatment towards the environment, two issues which I care a lot about. My name is Alicia Nightingale, and I'm a student from Summerland Secondary School. I've always had a desire to help others, and as I become more confident, I am finding new ways to do this. Part of this growth includes learning about different issues that are going on around the world. We live on a planet that is about 70% water, though because most of this water makes up our oceans and ice caps, only a small fraction is fresh water and safe to use and drink. Unfortunately, a lot of our fresh water sources will pick up bacteria, pollutants, and other contaminants, becoming unsafe to use as well. With over 7 billion people on Earth, this small percent becomes very important for us to protect. By protecting our water, we can have a stronger environment and a healthier world. Since water is greatly affected by our actions, it is our responsibility to limit the negative effects we may have, and it is our responsibility to protect it. Water is impacted from little things done in our daily activities to bigger things like illegal dumping and use of industrial chemicals. Unsafe materials can get into our freshwater sources, making it a lot harder to treat and adding extra expenses toward keeping this water safe. Our actions will impact entire ecosystems, risk endangering many wildlife species, and negatively impact important resources. Being conscious of our actions is a big step in the right direction for protecting our main water sources. Unfortunately, this may not help as much in developing countries and places that have been hit by natural disaster. In many developing countries, access to clean water is a problem. Water can be treated to become safe, but it is often a very costly job. These countries don't have the resources to properly treat the water. Without treatment, this water isn't safe to drink. It causes disease and digestive issues, which takes the lives of over 3 million people per year. That's 3/4 of BC's population every year. To make matters worse, there are many places that don't have proper toilets and sanitation systems. This can often cause further contamination to the water, creating an endless cycle of unsafe living conditions. Without taking action, people will continue to die, even though we know this issue is preventable. Being able to get some of the infrastructure and technology there for water treatment and sanitation is really beneficial to those who lack these resources. It just so happens that here in my community, Summerland, water has been a hot topic. Next month, there will be a water shut-off throughout the town. When first announced a few months ago, there was a lot of stress about it. I understood some of the nervousness behind people's feelings, and it won't be convenient, but with all the notice that we got, I believe it won't be as big of a problem as some residents have made it out to be. It was eye-opening to hear what they thought and the concerns of the situation, since we are very privileged here. I consider myself very lucky to be in a community that has access to so many things, especially water, when there are so many places that lack it. It is obvious that many people have forgotten that water is a privilege. Hopefully this shutoff becomes a reminder that we are so fortunate here, and we can become more aware of this. I think that what the UN is doing with the Sustainable Development Goals is amazing. It makes visions for a better world seem reachable. For example, goal number 6, ensuring access to water and sanitation for all, outlines why water is so important and actions that are being taken by the UN Water Agency to reach this goal. It covers many of the aspects of what I have talked about. UN Water is working towards getting better access to drinking water around the world, providing better hygiene facilities in developing countries, and protecting global water sources from environmental hazards. Initiatives like World Water Day and Sanitation for All create awareness about these issues. The 2015 Goals report, the UN had helped get better water systems in place for nearly 150 countries, but there's still a lot of work to be done to ensure everyone gets access to water. I think that we can fix these issues regarding water, that many of the goals the UN has been working on for these issues are achievable. Since water is essential for life and a major part of every ecosystem, it's a topic that needs to be taken very seriously, and it deserves a lot of attention. It's beneficial to continue educating people about these issues, and it takes so many to protect something this big, so it becomes very important. If we work together, we can see the UN's goals being reached in the near future, and everyone could have access to clean drinking water. Thank you.
This is an incredible opportunity brought to us by the community and by the lodge here in Summerland. Last year I had the honor of winning the competition and being sent on an all-inclusive paid trip to the United Nations down in New York. It wasn't only educational, but it was quite the experience. It taught me a lot about the world, and it helped me to explore different sides of myself as well.
Hi, my name is Natasha Giesbrecht. I'm from Penticton Secondary School, and I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I thought of a collection of topics that I could write this essay on, all of which that needed to be spoken about, although the one I have chosen may be the most important current event to the greatest number of people. The one I have chosen to speak about today is one that relates close to home for just about everyone, I would think, yet it is also everywhere in our world. When you think of our continuous problems with the fight against drugs, what is the first thing that pops into your brain? I can't say for certain what popped into many of your heads, but I can tell you what first comes to mind for me when I think of our worldwide problem with drugs. I think of all the people we've lost. A mother so wrapped up in her addiction that she did not see the harm she had caused to her children. Or that longtime friend dying because they took just a little too much. How many people have had to bury a loved one this year because of drug-related deaths alone? I cannot give you the exact number, but I'm certain it is far too many, and the year has just begun. Drugs certainly aren't new. Maybe they have affected us more as of late. Possibly they have become a more popular trend, as horrifying as that is. But drugs have always been present. I believe the first step to stopping, or at least slowing down this epidemic, is to get people involved globally. Have people from every community and different lifestyles and backgrounds step in to help prevent the use of drugs in our communities. Social media has made it a lot easier for people to see the effects and the aftermath of drug-related crimes and deaths because it is now posted on every page and site for anyone to see. Although social media is making it more people aware to the pain of substance abuse, is this really a good thing? Or is it just desensitizing people? Seeing something day after day will eventually make it easier to digest. Maybe not for everyone, but definitely for some. Although death is a major factor of the widespread of drug use, it isn't the only problem we have. Drug-related crime is a huge issue for many areas. When we think of drug-related crime, we think of some heroin addict stealing or mugging someone for their next fix. But in reality, drugs are related to so much more crime than that. People who use or supply drugs get caught and jailed. People commit violent acts while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Drunkenness is associated with the majority of murders, manslaughter, stabbings, and over half of our domestic violence cases. These are only the things we know about. No one really knows what happens behind closed doors. So why hasn't anyone put an end to it? Well, to be honest with you, I don't think it's as simple as that. We as a whole cannot run head-on into this without thinking it through. Every act we do will cause a ripple effect. Whether it will be a negative one or not, it's hard to say. Behind every drug user, there will be a dealer. Behind that, maybe an even bigger supplier. You can never know how deep it goes. So where to start? Start where you can, locally, with our youth, our homeless, maybe our friends or family. Locally, there are many addicts that need our help. Start in shelters, the soup kitchens, and maybe even halfway houses. It may not seem like much because we aren't taking down some multi-billion-dollar drug ring, but it is doing so much more than you could ever imagine. Each person helped is one less person stuck to their addiction. One of the biggest drugs sweeping across our nation, as I'm sure you've heard about, is fentanyl. You'll see it on the internet and on the news about the many hundreds of deaths from that one drug alone. Fentanyl seems to have hit our youth the hardest. Maybe they don't know they're taking it. One of the biggest speculations with fentanyl is that it's being laced in another drug. People cannot prepare themselves when they don't know what they're taking. Not that taking any is okay, but the smallest amount of fentanyl can kill you. New drugs are being made and produced all the time, and that is part of the problem. The more drugs created, the more drugs are sold. People automatically turn to the authorities for help, but they're not the only ones who can help our communities. Which then brings me to the next drug-related thing, supervised injection sites. Now, I know what some of you must be thinking, how absurd this idea is. Make it okay for people to get high? How about making it safer? Give them a place to use drugs? We are giving them a place with medical care, nurses who can help them, counselors that can advise them, help them turn from the path that they've been on for far too long. There is talk about drugs being provided to addicts at these injection sites. How insane is that, right? Maybe not. Supplying drugs to them will not only stop them from spending their last bit of money, but will also stop their money from going into the hands of their dealers. Although this idea of supervised injection and provided drugs is a bit unorthodox, what isn't nowadays? Clearly, nothing else is working. We have tried enforcing punishments, jail time for being caught with the possession of drugs, and that hasn't worked. People get sentenced, and that won't take away their addiction. They will have that same addiction once they get out. There are loads of reasons as to why people start taking drugs in the first place. Bad childhoods, tried it and got addicted, maybe even things got tough and they turned to the wrong thing to ease their pain. But my point to this is, with how many reasons people use drugs, we should give them that many reasons to get off of drugs. We should give them the opportunities and the means to make a better life for themselves. In conclusion, this is a current event that affects the lives of many around us and affects the lives of people we all care about. These are the things that come to mind for me when I think of our drug crisis. Thank you.
First place winner tonight will be sent on the same trip that I got to go on last year. So it's called the UNP, so United Nations Pilgrimage for Youth, and the lodge pays for all their travel, all their food and accommodation. It basically sends them on a 2-week trip around North America, showing them the history side of it, the education piece, and gives them a chance to compete internationally in New York.
Well, I went on this trip in 1954 when I was in grade 11. Really proud that the program's still going on. There aren't any other associations that can bring a group of students into the United Nations like we do.
Good evening. My name is Garrett Cruikshank. I go to Penticton Secondary School. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about my passion. We have the power to make a change in the world. Every day, children are deprived of their right to an education. Every day, children are deprived of their childhood. Every day, children are deprived from believing that their life is a blessing. From child soldiers, factory workers, or field workers, children are exploited throughout many parts of the world. But today, I'm going to talk about the 108 million child slaves in the African cocoa fields. I still recall the day I learned that children no different than me were enslaved harvesting the cocoa for the chocolate I enjoyed. The average child's day begins at 6 a.m. as they wake up on wooden planks with no clean water or sanitation. Children range in age from 12 to 16, but some start as young as 5. These children use chainsaws to clear the forest, while others, without the benefit of protective clothing, spray toxic chemicals across vast fields. To harvest, children must strike each pod with a machete, often slashing themselves. The scars left behind are not just on the outside of their body and will be a part of them for the rest of their lives. Trying to escape or working below the desired speed leads to punishment in the form of whipping and beating. These children have no rights. They have no voice. Poverty forces families to sell their children out of desperation. You cannot put a price on a child's life. The Haitian uprising was a turning point in history. It is a time that should never be forgotten, a time to remember when the oppressed were finally heard. It greatly impacted the establishment of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations. This milestone testimony, through legal instruments and on-the-ground activities, protects human rights diligently. Article 4 states, "No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms." Article 5 states, "No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment." The International Labor Organization reported that from 2000 to 2012, child labor decreased by 1/3. However, around 168 million children are still being exploited today. We are beginning to make a change, but the progress is slow. If we wish to live in a world without the worst forms of child labor, an increase in effort at all levels must happen. As I quote the International Labor Organization Director, General Guy Ryder, there are 168 million good reasons to do so. Education is the key to abolishing child slavery. Educating small-scale producers on how to maintain a sustainable income allows them control over their future. By teaching them the value of their skills and the abilities to negotiate a fair wage, poverty in their communities will decrease. By eradicating poverty, children will have access to an education. A child without education is like a bird without wings. Educating children gives them purpose, hopes, and dreams. Through education, children and their families can break the cycle of poverty, but they need our help. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 10 to reduce inequalities within and among countries by adopting policies to see fair wages and social protection is a catalyst for a movement. By educating consumers about the reality of their products, the increased need for ethically produced products will initiate a change. Supply and demand dictates what goes on store shelves. As consumers, we control the demand. If we are to make a difference, we must demand that the products we consume are produced by socially responsible corporations. Their bottom line depends on us. 108 million silenced children working the cocoa fields in Africa. 168 silenced children worldwide deprived of their future. As I quote Nelson Mandela, poverty is not an accident. Like slavery and apartheid, it is man-made and can be removed by the actions of human beings. The choice to support companies that empower communities rather than deprive them gives a voice to these children. We will unite against the horror of child slavery. We have the power to make a change in the world. Thank you.
And I wish I was as smart as they are. I mean, they are. I mean, these students work very hard. And they do a really good job. It keeps them pretty brilliant. I mean, they're interested in what's happening and what's going on in the world. I mean, that's a pretty hard thing for some of these kids to do, and they're realizing how difficult it is for people.
I have judged this for 6 years now, and I find that the students are just fantastic. They have such an outgoing personality, most of them, and such an interest in what's going on in the world. And the ones that win are very fortunate because, as some of the others will say, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance.
But all the students here tonight have wonderful speeches, wonderful topics, and they're here to put their voice to good use.
There really aren't words that you can put to explain how proud you are when you've got a granddaughter that is like Victoria. And this opportunity is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for any young person, whether they win tonight and go on to the UN or whether they don't. It's a growing opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity for them to learn how to present themselves and learn how to express their ideas.
Well, you all did a perfectly wonderful job, and I just wish that I could send you all, but I can't. The girls have they've got to determine who won this shot. Anyway, good luck to all of you.
Yeah, so I chose water security because I really have a passion about environmental care and global issues. So I thought that was a fitting one for me.
Well, I chose drugs in our community because that's a topic that's really close to me because I actually lost someone in my family from fentanyl abuse. So I just figured it's a topic that everyone can relate to because it's everywhere right now.
Well, the reason I knew about it in the first place was that my parents went on a trip to Mexico and they were watching the news, and that an article about child slavery came up in the cocoa industry and about a company or organization called Fair Trade that goes and wants there to be direct commerce to enable small-scale producers to create their own sustainable livelihood and that to stop child slavery. So from that, I kind of just grew on it and realized it's happening in other industries, not just cocoa. And then I'm a kid, and realizing this happens to other kids like me, it was pretty impactful, and I've been pursuing that since grade 6 now.
Well, you lucky people. I'm lucky, but you're not as lucky as I am. And the winner, it's so close. I feel bad all the time. Anyway, it's Garrett. Congratulations.
I get to go to the United Nations and go to New York. I prepare a speech in a short time there that I'll compete there with it on a specific topic. And then also I just get to listen in on other people talking and other United Nations participants, and I think it's just going to be a lot of learning, and it's going to be fun.
Anyway, we're all proud of him, right?